much, everyone, for joining. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to our second webinar for Ediphi. Today, our host, well, I am your host, actually, Javier Perez, Customer Support Manager here at Ediphi. And our speaker today is going to be our CTO and co-founder, Michael Navarro. And we have also my colleague here, Leonido Quartaroli, who is going to be helping us answer any questions you guys might have during the process of this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A, and we'll either get those answered through there, or we'll answer them at the end of this webinar. We'll keep a 5-10 minute gap in there. With that said, let's get started. Michael, the floor is yours.
Sure. So I'll start sharing my screen in a moment, but I'm really excited to have you all here with us. And I'm excited to show off what we have built. This has been something that has been in the process for a while. It's been used and useful for 6 years, at least for one organization that runs $5 billion a year worth of work. And we're now offering it to the market. It was incubated inside of a company. It's now broken off, and we incorporated in September. So let me share my screen and actually do this introduction a little more formally here. And we'll talk about this product and where it came from and some of the highlights of it so you can get yourself familiar. So first off, our mission statement. We want to empower the people who plan the built world. Now, I've been one of those people. Nito's been one of those people on this call. And a lot of the other people in our organization are like that as well. That means is we were the ones who were doing the estimating, doing the pre-construction, even getting the job in the ground and building the project. I have about 20 years of experience, as does Nito on this call. Half my career has been in getting the building the projects as a project manager. The other half has been getting the deals in the ground. Anything from conceptual estimates to detailed estimates to bid tabulation and getting the subcontracts awarded and getting the client to sign the GMP. So let's talk about the rest of the team. You have me here, the co-founder and CTO, as well as Dustin, who is the CEO and co-founder. Now, Dustin can't be with us here today, unfortunately, but it was really early last year when I met Dustin, who founded Building Connected, as you may know, and led that to a successful company that was then sold to Autodesk. It was when I partnered with him that it really took this product and it gave us the power to offer it to the market and to grow the team that you see here. Now, the team. These are people who come from the industry and construction technology. Bottom row, going from Danielle on the left and over to the right. Danielle actually met like 6 years ago. She was at Procore working on pre-con and financials, and I was a pre-con manager, and we talked about different product improvements. Now she's our VP of product here. Super excited to have her part of the team. A lot of unfinished business that she had with Procore that we can now take that passion she has and bring over here. Zach Azar, our VP of engineering, who worked with Dustin at Building Connected. He's really making this organization top-notch enterprise-grade software from an engineering standpoint. And then Danny, who has experience also at Procore, but with some other companies such as Sonos, who is, I believe, best in class when it comes to product design, as our VP of design. And then Sarah DeBaca, who was at companies like Bluebeam, but also companies like Join, where we acquired her from recently, who we heard from some of our clients was amazing at customer success. So it was very important to grab her and bring her into the organization, which we've done. So that's the team. There's others. But I really think that this is a team that knows this business, that knows both construction and technology for it. And it's a lot of people who we're missionaries, not mercenaries. We want to solve these problems, and we've been trying to do it for many years. More about the company. We've got offices in Boston, Santa Barbara, and San Francisco. I'm in Boston. Dustin is in Santa Barbara, and then we have San Francisco, then we have people down in Santa Barbara as well. We've raised $6.5 million, 6 years of proven reliability. In 2017, I was charged with looking at all commercially available software for the company I was within for estimating to get new software. And ultimately, I pitched to the company that nothing meets our needs, so we should build our own. That happened in February of 2018. The first version was in September of that year. And so there's been almost 6 years of use in this application. Although we're offering it, we're a startup, but it's got a lot of use. And you can see that with the 15,000 projects and $45 billion worth of total value. This is a modern and intuitive approach to estimating software in that we're cloud first, and we're evolving our user interface with some top-notch people like Danny, our VP of design. And we're a culture of innovation. Look, this is the start. And we have a trajectory that's going to bring us to the moon and back. We're just getting started with this and hitting on estimating at its core. Here's some other people in the estimating market. I already kind of touched on this. You've got cloud-based, right? And that's a differentiator for us. But these cloud-based ones, bought by Procore, bought by Autodesk, and then us. Esticom is an estimating solution for electrical. ProEst was a fairly light estimating solution that now Autodesk has. And I would argue we are the most feature-rich, flexible estimating platform, and we're cloud-based. Flexible. I'm going to jump over to the right. Of course, spreadsheets are flexible. Nothing's more flexible than Excel, but Excel breaks. And by the way, everything that you see here or going to see here today actually started in Excel, where I did all this automation to begin with. But users found innovative ways to break the guardrails down and fall to their death. I spent too much time trying to protect people from walking paths and not enough time building the paths that they should walk. And that's what moving all that functionality to the web meant. Too many #ref errors in the Excel world. Too much difficulty aggregating data. Too much difficulty taking your spreadsheet and giving it to your colleagues and it not breaking. But we want that flexibility, and I think that's what we're offering. And then the incumbents, which are all desktop based and probably you're mostly familiar with, I would say we have their features and then some, and we're cloud first. Okay, so we'll get onto the demo right after this slide, and I'll be quick with this one. We're genuinely cloud-based. We handle conceptual estimating, detailed estimating. We have GCs and GRs. We handle buyout. We do bid tabulation. We do historical cost. This is what we're trying to do. Go from the very beginning of a project to its ground break and its full procurement to guarantee or to facilitate the successful outcome of that project. Those are our bookends, right? And that's what we're covering. Today, what we're going to do, and that's in a single cloud-based collaborative environment, but today what we're going to do is we're going to double down on estimating. And with that, I will get started with the demo portion, which is to look at an estimate. Today, we're going to look at an estimate that is an apartment building with some below-grade parking. And it's going to give me an opportunity to start talking about what some of our unique value propositions are, or some features that we have that no one else has. So first off, what you're going to notice is this is a schedule of values, right? Here are all my bid packages. Here's my total cost. Here's my total cost of the project, $435 a square foot. But look at these columns on the right, apartments and below grade parking with cost per square foot and cost per unit. What is this? What this is taking your total estimate and breaking it out into what we call use groups, or like asset classes, or like cost buckets. Because in my experience, what we need to do is to break out these costs into these buckets because our clients need it. But I hope by the end of this call, we're also going to show that you could use it too for your historical pricing, because it allows you to compare just, say, the apartment portion of one project against that of many others that you've done in the past. So you see it here at this level, but you also see it at the area sheet, which is something I'm going to jump to. And then after that, we will ask you some questions about how you do your work. So let's look at the area sheet too, which is over here. The area sheet is a way to say, okay, here are all of my floors in my building, below grade, above grade. Here are my uses, apartments, parking, and all the area of those on each floor, as well as what is my perimeter and floor to floor height of every single floor, which calculates my total facade area. Now, having this in here can directly or indirectly drive many of the line items within your estimate. So going back into our estimate, there's a lot of formulas in here where a lot of these things are driven. And you can see that, yeah, here are all the line items. I'm in concrete apartments. You can see that the use groups, you can actually break your costs down by this. So here are my line items for apartments, for below grade parking. And I'm assigning those costs to these use groups, which are shaking their costs into these columns. But we also have the ability to actually spread the costs out to these use groups. So tell you what, why don't we, Javier, now ask that question, and then we'll talk about more about those use groups and spreading out that cost.
Of course, yeah. So I'll go ahead and launch this quick poll. It's literally one question, so we're going to give you guys 30, 45 seconds to answer. So you should see it on your screen now. So please go ahead and choose an option that suits you best. Okay, a few more seconds before I end it. All right, let's take a look. Can you guys see the results right now? Can you see the mic?
The results, I don't know if I should have it on my other display.
Oh, you can't see them. Huh. Interesting. Sharing it with everybody. Looks like we got a 50% of all the time, 40% on sometimes, and a 10% of no, we don't care stuff about stuff like this.
10-4. Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully
You're always going to have one. Go ahead.
Yeah, hopefully we can convert some of those no's and maybe even some of those sometimes into thinking that you know, adding a little more value to this. So first, what I want to do is look at spreading these costs out. I mean, you can see here that we have the apartment costs and we have the below grade parking costs, and we have the total quantities we can actually change, which will update the how the costs are distributed. But look down here, we have these multiple ones that are allocated to multiple use groups. My point is this. Like, this is an apartment tower and it's got some parking, and then you got a mat slab that's supporting the core. So what do I do with those costs? I mean, how much of that mat slab goes to the apartments versus the parking? I mean, certainly it's because of both of them that mat is what it is, supporting the whole building. So you can see here this multiple button. And if I click on that, I can actually spread the cost across these use groups to whatever percentage I want. Additionally, I can choose to do it proportional based on its area. Now, you just saw that in the area sheet. And so you saw that there were areas. If those areas changed, like adding another level of below grade parking, I'll just hit save on this. You can see it says proportional, and now it's shaking the cost out. If I were to change my below grade parking area and add another floor, then more of this money will go there. And if I do my formulas right, even more of this quantity should even potentially go up too, right? Because that's what all these formulas mean. It means that we're giving that Excel flexibility of formulas, but within a database style cloud first application. So maybe what I'll do is pick one of these line items and show you an example to try to tie these dots together. Like, let's say steel bent plate, 40% of perimeter. If I hit this formula potion here, yeah, there are formulas here. What's going on? I've got this element, which is the lowest floor to the highest floor perimeter. All right, I got bent plate. But then I'm adding a 40% factor to it. And that's a number I can change, by the way, if I want to change my factor of how much of it is bent plate. But you can see now I just use my area sheet. And if the areas on my area sheet changed, well, so too would this change. And some of those dials, you can see here, there's that 40% factor. If I want to make this a 60% factor, you can see my lineal footage of bent plate just went up. As well as there's all these other factors in here with some of these other formulas, but no need in going through those. The only thing I want to additionally show before we can go on to the next part is that in any one of these, you can click on and you can view historical pricing, and you can see every other time other estimators. Now, this is a trial environment and my name's all the way up and down on it. But you can see on every single project within this region, and you can select different regions, within every single project, you can see every time this line item was used, when it was used. You can see the time here. You can apply escalation. what the total quantity was, right? And you can even go in here and go, oh, what's going on? Well, my range is 2,000. That's a pretty big range going on up here. Oh, well, this one here for the airport is 7,300 a ton. Hide that from the analysis. Get a tighter range. Get a better min-max, average to help inform you on what your unit price should be. Sort of a way to look across your entire environment and not have to go down the hall and talk to Joe and Jill, right? So if that's making sense, we're going to demo a unit mix, and then we'll ask another question about the unit mix as well. So I'm going to go there, just a quick check my time. Seems like things are good. We'll go to units. All right, this is an apartment building, right? I just showed you steel and I just showed you concrete. So that makes sense, right? I mean, that's like the core and shell of the building and the hole you got to dig and all that. But what about the stuff inside? And especially when you have something like an apartment building. Well, you have these repeatable scope items. And for an apartment, it makes a lot of sense. Like here's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and 1 bedroom, 1 bath plus, and that probably has a larger area. 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and a studio. Now you see here all of the floors of the building, right? That's from my area sheet. And now I'm just saying, how many of each of these units do I have on each floor? And I have my area check over here, which is showing me the area of every single floor from the area sheet. But it's also giving me my net area, which is the sum of every unit area on the floor, which gives me my efficiency and something I watch all the time. Plenty of times I've been on jobs and, maybe designers tell me it's a 96% efficient. It's like, that's not possible. Or maybe I don't have any plans and I want to fill the space with units. And I just want to track this efficiency to make sure that it makes sense, which I think it does at 76% on this one. Anyways, it's a real project that I've worked on in the past. So then it's like, okay, great that you have that, but also these units are like mini estimates. This is what I mean. See these columns? Look, it's a 1 bed, 1 bath, 1 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath, 2, 1. It's got my areas in here. I even have my total unit counts and my cost per unit. So I know how much each unit costs. But I know everything that's in it too. I mean, anything from the blocking to the shelving, to the walls, to the tile, to the paint, to the appliances, to the electrical, to the plumbing, or whatever amount of scope you want to include in these. And these units, you can start creating your own database of units. So it's just like, oh, I want to use the unit like this. And it just brings in this mini estimate for this unit. And then you just say how many you have on each floor. This formula is here too, which makes things a little easier for you, meaning that it's dynamic, such as if I added another bathroom in here, you can see tile flooring, tile base, you can see vinyl plank flooring. So in tile flooring, for example, if I click on this, I've got 59 square feet per bath, right? And I guess we did an adjustment here. Let's simplify this and say I want 45 square feet per bath, right? 45 square feet. That's how, and I have and that's 1 bath. But if I throw another bath in here, right? These things are updating on me. Oh, I forgot to do, excuse me. Let's do this formula together. Times this unit's bath count, right? So now that's 90 square feet, or if I switch it to a 1, right, it's 45 square feet. That's changing, which is changing a bunch of other things because my vinyl plank flooring is equal to my total area of the apartment minus that tile flooring. And I'll take that adjustment out, right? So that's like a catch-all. All right. So the cool thing about this is that these all generate line items within my estimate, but I get like mini estimates for my units that I can just change how many I have on each floor. And it's automatically updating my estimate very quick. Or I can delete a whole floor of the building and it takes out, say I delete the 11th floor. Hey, the 13th, because it's bad luck. 5 units of this come out, 1 unit of this, 2 units of this, and so on. And it will automatically update my price with 1 click. So maybe now is a good time, Javier, to ask another question.
Yep. Let's go ahead and ask the question. Again, you should see it on your screen. Give you guys 30 seconds to answer these. Go ahead. Give it 5 more seconds. All right, and I will share the results with everybody. We got an 88% on yes, it's similar to what you are doing, Mike, so pretty good. 13%. No, we just cover all this scope with regular line items, but hopefully that should change soon.
Yeah, hopefully it will change soon. And look, for all of you out there who are doing this, I'll just say that you might be doing it in some other side sheet, right? And what we're trying to do for you all is to take all the dots and put them in one place so you have the power to connect them. Because if you have the power to connect them, then that becomes repeatable chunks of work that you can just say, hey, I've got this unit. I want to grab it from this other project. I want to put it over here. You don't need to redo it every single time. And it comes with all this connective tissue, right? That allows you to say, well, what if I deleted the floor of a building? Or what if I reduced the floor to floor heights of every floor and added another one to stay underneath the max height by zoning, but to get myself, I don't know, 14 more units if there's 14 units on the floor here. So there's a lot of optionality here, or a lot of optioneering that you can do with these kind of features. But the unit mix isn't the only one, because the unit mix is really for the 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, and all that. It's for that repeatable revenue or value generating scope. It's apartments here, but it could be patient rooms in a hospital. It could be classrooms in a school. That's the repeatable scope of work. That's the, how many units do we have? How many, heads and beds do we have? How many keys for the hotel do we have? But then there's the non-revenue or non-value. You could argue still generates value, but you're not really getting revenue from it, or your developer is not getting revenue from it. And those are rooms. Rooms. I mean, like, the lobby, the amenity space, the conference room, the mail room, the loading dock, all of the supporting spaces that are needed to support the revenue generating space, which is those units. But you need it for the building programming to exist, right? So you see here all of these rooms that are in here. And one thing you're going to notice is, and I used to call this a finish schedule, and now we call it a room schedule, that you have these rooms, and then you have perimeter, average area, quantity, and height. So you're sort of defining the shape and size of what a room is. But then this ought to be familiar, like from an architect's set of plans: walls, floors, ceiling, base. What's going on here is that you're able to tag what finishes you want on the walls, floor, ceiling, base on any one of these. And so what that looks like for the amenity, I could go in here and I could click for the walls, because there's nothing on here right now, right? And I could say I want, ceramic tile on the walls, right, for instance, or an allowance for amenity wall finish, right, which is probably what I had in there right before I deleted it. Then you can change the percentage of how much of each of these line items you want. And you can add a whole bunch of these, by the way. Just go crazy in here and just change whatever percentage you want of each one of these. And all of that will wind up totaling up the total amount of paint, the total amount of concrete seal. Look, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Key configurations. All of these keys that are applied to these rooms, they're all here. Yeah, they all are. Just like you'd see keys in a finish schedule on an architect's set of plans. Except now it's totaling the total quantity of each one of these up for me. Right? I don't have to manage this as a bunch of different line items. It's really one line item in my estimate. And I could even show it to you in the main estimate. But here is just a concise view of all these keys and what the total quantity is of every single one. And so what that does for me, well, one, it allows me to show my design team and my client what I'm assuming. And I'm not just hey, I have 112,137 square feet of tile. Okay, great. What does that even mean? Oh, well, maybe I'll show you my takeoff, right? Or it's, here are all my rooms, and this is what I'm assuming for finishes. And if you want me to change them because you don't want this to be concrete sealer in this room, but you want it to be vinyl composite tile, then so be it. It's that easy. And everything's been updated. And when you have that, it gives you some pretty good power, because well, look here, I got my amenity space and it's a $500,000 amenity space. Well, this is adding to my total cost per units, by the way, all these rooms. And so it's nice to know where the cost drivers are. It's nice to know that there's $520,000 worth of finishes in the amenity. But it's also nice to know that, like, I've got a mini estimate here. This is my amenity space. I mean, I've got my finishes that I applied, like that ceiling paint, but I've also got all these line items in here, and I can change these line items in here in this mini estimate. But I can also look at these line items over here. And here are where they're all at. You know what? Let's just do one together. Oop, I didn't even mean to add that one, so I'm gonna add another one. Click too quick. Let's add like a duplex receptacle, right? And so here's my duplex receptacle. So I can do a formula here. And I can say, I want this to be equal to this room, but I want it to be its perimeter. And I want to divide that by a metric, which, let's say 12. Some of you might know where I'm going already. Feet on center. What did I just do? Well, I don't want a partial outlet, so I'm going to round that to the whole. I just added code compliant outlets in that room. Now, if I want code compliant outlets in every room, right? Because I said basically I want one outlet every 12 lineal feet. I just fill that down. Now I have code compliant outlets in every single one of those rooms. And that 20 amp duplex line item is one line item in my estimate. So I don't have to manage so many of them just to be able to give my client a room estimate. I can manage one and I can still get my room estimates. So with that, it's probably a good time to turn it over again to you, Javier, and let's ask a question.
Let's ask the question. All right. Here's another poll for you guys coming in for rooms. Again, give you guys 30 seconds to answer. Five more seconds. All right. We had 100% result on yes. It'd be great to talk to our project stakeholders about our assumptions.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna land sort of this concept since we covered a lot of estimates, but I do want to at least connect the dot before I move into the next feature set of this application and actually show these line items that we were just talking about from the units, from the rooms. So if I go into my estimate over here, and I'm going to scroll down. So, here we are, my bid packages and everything. I'm going to go into finishes though. So that's going to start around division 9, right? 8, 9, we're getting in there. Okay, see all these little chain icons? In unit tile flooring. Well, we saw that one. I remember that one. It's 16,000 square feet, right? And so, but it came from someplace. And that's what these blue icons mean. It means that there's logic here. I can always be like, yeah, that's fine, but I just want it to be 17,500. You can always override logic, but you never lose your formulas or your logic. It's just there because you want to say what it is, and I don't want to slow you down. But you can always clear that back out to the logic that is meaning from the unit mix. If I click on this chain, it'll take me there. And as I scroll around, it will highlight what that is, right? So that was one from the unit mix. Another one down here, we looked at ceramic tided wall tile, right? So again, same thing. If I click on this, there's that wall tile we just looked at a minute ago. Right. So I can even see what rooms it's assigned to, which in this case is only these two. So I just wanted to connect that dot before we go to the next step, that these line items are line items within your estimate. And they're managed as nice, clean line items, though there's so much more richness about, as to where they are, how they're used, so that you can get these like prices per unit and prices per room. Now, that's probably a good segue, because now we're going to talk about, well, everything here has been, when I said like 10 years of experience and, pre-construction, a lot of work here, right? But also a lot of work in, well, now it's going to be solicited to bid to subcontractors to get bids, and we're going to qualify each bidder, and we're going to carry the lowest qualified bidder. And that's what I would call bid tabs or scope sheets. And we have a procurement process there as well. So we're going to show that next. But I think first, before we do that, let's show another poll, Javier, asking about this contracting step.
Definitely. So the next poll is basically a simple question. Would you like to be able to pull line items from your estimate to create your scope sheet or bid tabs? Let's go ahead and launch it and give you guys 30 seconds again. All right, 5 more seconds. All right. So we got a 75% response on yes, saves me a lot of time from creating them in Excel. 13% on no, we handle scope sheets separately from estimates. They don't need to be connected. And somebody out there is lost and they don't know where they are. So we should probably point them in the right direction, Mike.
I feel that, man. I feel that. Well, you might be lost because you already made the decision of getting into the construction industry to begin with, but presumably we all have, so we're all in it together. It's a tough business. But at any rate, so yeah, I do love it though. And I think that if anyone who is in it has got to love it because it is tough. All right. So we can get on to the next step. I will say there are a couple questions here I could probably, and I'm doing great on time. I'm hitting my cue. So there's a couple simple questions that I could answer live. One is, how many use groups can you have in your system? Is there a limitation? Well, you can configure these use groups, add. You can configure all sorts of them. You can have them by category, parking, residential, right? Whatever. You can have as many categories as you want. You can have as many of these use groups as you want. And then how many can you add in your estimate? There's really no limit, but I think we probably set a limit of 250, which is like, I never even come close to that. I mean, 10, 15 is a lot. So hopefully that gives you the flexibility you need. Okay, 2 more. Is this
go for it? Sorry, Mike. No, go for it.
Yeah, no, I got a little bit of time, so I figured I'd hit it up. So is this an app? Javier Perez is going to answer this question live. Oh, cool. I saw that. Oh, that was wild.
I'm just selecting them so people actually see the questions. That's what I was going to say. Sorry, go ahead.
Cool. Okay, cool. This is a web-based application you get here in your browser. There's no install of this. We ship code, daily often. And that means that you can get features all the time. And there's no, I gotta update this or that. You just go into yourcompanyname.edify.com and you're going to get the latest, greatest features. And there really is no install. It's all cloud-based, which makes it real easy to invite others. More on that in the future. Our VP of product, VP of design, VP of engineering, they got some awesome stuff coming on that in the future when it comes down to collaboration. Then there's another one about historical pricing. And it does not require the same description for every line. You can change anything about these line items, and it's not going to disconnect it from the historical reference. The historical reference is because you have a database of line items and because you use that database of line items to add them into your estimate. And so if you use that database, then you're already getting, every other user who used this same item from this database. Now, there are, of course, instances where you want to remove it from that historical reference point, and there are some things that will do it. In other words, this thing has view historical pricing, but if I change this to square yards, that price point becomes irrelevant, and I can no longer view historical pricing. Instead, I could add this as a custom item to my own UPC because it doesn't make sense anymore. But don't worry about changing other things that don't impact it, because under the hood, we keep it where we're giving that relevant historical information for you at that line item basis. All right, those are those 3. I'm sure there's more coming in. I'll hit those up later. I just want to make sure that I can get into some of our other topics, which is in contracting. And then on contracting, well, let me say this, I'm in a project, I'm in an estimate. And let's go here. It's not just estimating, we also have contracting, scheduling, and GCs. What we're really going to do, that we're not going to get into these, we're going to get here, and you can see all these bid packages. These bid packages often come from just the estimate. You go here and you just push over to contracting, and then for each bid package in your estimate, it creates one of these. Right? So, but I'm going to go into concrete. Actually, I'm going to go into, I think I've got it queued up here. Yeah. So here I am. I'm carrying bidder 4 selected. I have my estimate value. I can even carry my own estimate if I so choose, right? But I'm carrying bidder 4. I've got my own scope of work in here where I'm qualifying these bidders, saying what they are including, what they're not. If they're not including something, I'm qualifying their numbers up. This one over here dropped out. I excluded them. That's why they're grayed out. I mean, the red is that, like, you know, I didn't say if they have something or not. So disqualified. But I got all this scope in here. And I'm starting to qualify these bidders against it. Now, this one's a pretty filled out one, as you can see. But what do we want to do, to go back to that poll question, from estimate? How do all these get added in? Well, there's a handful of different ways. But one common way is add from your estimate. So here it is, my estimate. Here's my concrete bid package. I can just go in here and I can, like, well, I could even choose like all of these. But I'm just going to choose which line items I want. And I'm going to add them in this container here, right? So if I pop that out, now I'm adding in these line items for my estimate. And I've got them here with my pricing and my unit costs and my quantities. I can do some pretty cool things then, like this person doesn't have it. So I can set a link to them, like linking their plug. I have to plug them up. I'm going to plug them up with my value. As a matter of fact, you know what? I am even going to fill that across to all of these bidders. None of these people have it. Now, if I change this, it's automatically changing my plug for them. And since this came from my estimate, it's not going to update live if my estimate updates, but I can refresh this at any time for my estimate. If my estimate changes, I can refresh my quantity, my unit costs, and therefore ripple effect that refresh number into what I'm plugging for my bidders. So that's a great way of taking what you have done in your estimate and move it over into the contracting, where now you're getting bids and you're qualifying people side by side. Right? And you're adding these bidders in. You're saying what their number is, and you're qualifying their scope. I'm going to look at some other things here before we move to some of the next screens, meaning some of the other features in the application. And, you know, I'm not going to get into like buy sheet in here, but the idea is like this. We also have buyout. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the schedule of values, because you just saw one bid package, which was concrete. But like I said, in my estimate, I had many different bid packages. We were scrolling around in there. We saw all the line items. And for each bid package in your estimate, you can create a bid package within this contracting. So here they all are. And here are my total values. And then I got my budget, and I've got my delta from my budget as the numbers are coming in. So what this is, well, first off, where did that budget come from? Well, you can just type things in. But also, when I moved my estimate into here, my estimate became the budget that I'm measuring against as I get my bids in and I'm qualifying them. Then as I get my bids in, sometimes like I need to hold allowances because, you know, for structural steel, maybe this 50,000 is for some dunnage for a piece of equipment on the roof. You can tag some of your items as holds and allowances, which are things that you can then create these holds and allowance reports. Allowances, I'm considering, you know, we can change some terminology, but an allowance is, I'm not taking risk on it as a builder. I'm saying that this is undefined scope, and I'm putting a circle around it saying this is a chunk of undefined scope, and I'm going to communicate that to my client. And so this is a way to tally up all those allowances and communicate all of them to your client, to the developer. Holds I look at as an internal thing. I need to do steel. If we don't have the roof davits, the roof davits aren't designed. I know I need them so that we can do the facade maintenance, hook up the swing staging to the roof davits on the roof. And so I'm going to hold some money for that. And that's on me. That's my risk. I know I need that. That's not an allowance I'm going to give to my client. But it's really nice to go through here and be able to have your holds and allowances that you're tallying up. And I got my other things in here. I got my status, who's the bidder I'm carrying, who last changed it, who was modified by, and well, I've got no other users in here, but you can even assign users to this. And lastly, you saw the use groups. We're also doing the use group allocation here as well. So you can shake these costs out into the use. All right, well, that's great. I by and large have gone through this. There's so much more I'd love to talk about, but that's a good summary of how you can advance from an estimate to bid tabulation and procurement and beyond. I mean, that's ultimately we're trying to get. Those, in my experience, have been disconnected flows, and we want to connect those dots. Okay, we're going to go to another section, but I see some other questions. Maybe we should answer that now.
Yeah, up to you. There's 3 questions. I think the one of the first one says, is there any integrated takeoff?
Great question. So a couple of different ways to answer this. One, I actually at first I wanted to do my own. But what I realized is when I talked to a lot of different customers, now that we're demoing to so many different people, is that a lot of people really like on-screen takeoff. A lot of people really like Bluebeam. And I'm not too sure we want to build our own when we hear from these other systems that people have that they don't really like the ones that are built into those, and they still like on-screen takeoff. So we have some ways of adding in on-screen takeoff data. If any of you on-screen takeoff users are out there, you can create these libraries of conditions. And if you create a library of conditions, you can add these codes to our items, so that when you drag and drop that takeoff file in, it's automatically going to map to the items in your database. And it's going to add them in with all the sort codes and all of the mass format, unit format, and costs. But it's a little bit like clicky, draggy, droppy, and that's because on-screen takeoff is a desktop application, and it's limited what you can do with integrations. Then there's the newcomers. There's people like Toggle, and some of you may know them. Toggle is someone we absolutely want to integrate with, and we absolutely are planning on doing that. And we got some other wood to chop first, right? There's other things in our core we really want to nail down first. But being cloud first and seeing cloud first solutions come out like a Toggle, both being in the cloud really give us an opportunity to integrate. And those are places that we plan on going. But I think that integrate is a better path than build, because it lets them be best at what they're best at and lets us be best at what we're best at. SOC 2 compliance, that's something we're pursuing now, and we have a consultant helping us with. Can you invite subs to fill out their own bid sheets? Right now, we do you can do some downloads of sheets. We're doing downloads in PDF and Excel, and then share with your subs. We do want to get the subs to actually come directly into this environment and be able to use your bid forms directly in here. But again, that gets into collaboration, and we are going to get there. We have amazing people behind us, like I said, with our VP team and below. But it's just an order of priority. So that's something in the future. And then integrating with an owner's bid form, man, those are loaded. But yeah, with our ability to do infinite levels of sort fields, like I worked with Heinz a bunch. Heinz had their own sort fields that were not just oh, match into my bid form, but it was multiple layers of they had 3 layers of headings that you needed to match. And with a solution like this, you're able to look at the data the way I like looking at it: bid package followed by use group followed by master format, but then pivot it into the way they want to look at it, which theirs is a very much very uniformat. So that gives us the ability to pivot it in both ways. All right, I think the next thing to get into with 14 minutes left is the next step, which is historical costs. But before we get into historical costs, Oh my gosh, I just saw a question. Do you have an overall project history comparison so we can, so, yeah, someone just threw me a meatball. So yeah, that's, let's, with that question, about historical project cost, let's open up that poll, Javier, and then we'll take it there.
All right, let's do it. So launching a poll right now for everyone. I'm gonna give everyone a couple, maybe 15 more seconds on this one since there's a lot of words in here.
Yeah, I modified that one on you a little bit, Javier, because I added part B to
I
it,
know.
right? The use group
I know,
asset
yeah.
class, which is like, has to be digested, you know?
Yep. All right, let's give it 10 more seconds. Okay, and let's share the results. 71% breaking out by use group asset classes makes sense, better for apples to apples comparisons. And we got a 29% on yes, we want to compare to past projects, but only need to compare full projects against other full projects.
I'm just laughing at your no that you put in there. No, we don't like to provide our clients with important data.
Hey,
Yeah.
maybe they don't, somebody still doesn't know what they're doing here. So, hey, we just got to give them the option.
Yeah. So all right. So I want to go to the next thing here, which is this. Well, let me give you the use case, right? I am a pre-construction professional and I have a project in pre-con now, and I've made a whole bunch of assumptions. They happen to be the very first assumptions you make about the project, so they kind of matter. I'm making a whole bunch of assumptions about this project. And I want to validate my assumptions against projects of like kind. So that one, I can feel more confident in what I am presenting, but two, I can instill confidence in my client and that they can see comps with what I'm doing now against projects of like kind. And so that's what we're calling cost modeling. And right now it's a little button up here. Like I said, we've got some amazing design coming out that's going to look a lot better than what you're going to see right now. Or cost modeling here, right? But this is where we're at right now. So here's the cost modeling screen. Here are all my benchmarks, as we call them. And of course, I can filter these by project size. I can filter them by gross area. I can filter them by what the uses are or the region that it's in or the industry, right? I can even do some additional filters here, whether it be unit counts or number of floors or whatnot. But the magic is this. You can see some of these benchmarks, and in these benchmarks, it's not just the total project that's being benchmarked, but like I can go in here and I can just say apartments. And now I am only comparing the apartment portion, or I'm seeing only the apartment portion of all of these jobs. So let's select some of these and yeah, let's just randomly select some, right? And now I get them here. And I'm in here by master format 2 and maybe, followed by master format 3 or something. Or maybe I want to be in here by bid package, right? Or maybe I want to be in here by unit format 1, followed by unit format 2, whatever it is, pivoting the costs of my 3 projects. So let me just park a bit on the whole, just the apartment portion. Like, let's say that, let's do a hotel. Let's say a hotel, actually. Imagine you have a hotel on top of a convention center. Or imagine you have a hotel on top of a massive parking garage, right? Because you have a convention center and they need more hotel space. They need more heads and beds. So they say, we're going to do another project and we're going to do a massive precast parking garage with a hotel tower on top. If you looked at that hotel tower with all the parking, that parking is going to weigh like, it's going to reduce the overall cost per square foot. Now, have a hotel and put it on top of a casino. That casino could be more than $1,000 a square foot, right? On its finishes or its total scope. And the apartments should be, $475 or maybe over $500 these days, right? But if you just take the whole project of the hotel with the casino versus the hotel with with a parking garage, one's going to be way lower on cost per square foot, one's going to be way higher. You just want to take the hotel of one against the hotel of another, and that's what this allows you to do. Then it allows you to see an average, right, of these three here, and it allows you to load in your own cost model or create your own cost model. You can load in an estimate in here, and then you get a delta between your estimate and what you have for your comps. And these comps, right, like we have things like escalation in here, and our escalation is getting a lot richer where you can do it by year, and there's a lot more to come for that. So by and large, that's the cost modeling. My goal was to end here like 5 minutes ahead. We've got about 3 minutes left. So let's see if there's any questions. And I encourage, as I'm looking at the questions, since we've got, a few minutes left, and that's what I was hoping for, to have a few minutes left, throw out some questions out there. Don't be afraid to throw some in. How do we handle escalation of past projects? The way we're handling escalation is that you have annual escalation. For anyone who has been in this business long enough, I mean, I was here during 2008, 2009, and I saw what happened then. I mean, the numbers went down, and people were taking jobs at a loss just to not lay people off. I mean, it was an ugly time. And so, 2009, 2010, it was even going down, 11, even maybe a little bit, then kind of bottomed out there and it started coming back up. Then you got times like COVID where it just went bonkers up, right? Especially some of these steel prices. And, if you looked at the commodities for board feet of lumber, it was wacky. So every year things kind of go up and they go down. And what we're doing in here is we're adding in annual escalation so that it compounds year after year. It will give you some escalations, but at an admin level, it allows you to choose what you want for your defaults. And then at a cost model level, we will allow you to modify what you want just for your cost model, because you maybe need to take some tweaks. Oh, good. We got some more in here. How long does it take to set up a database? We'll give you a database. As a matter of fact, I just spent like multiple weeks, and Nito on this call helped me. I mean, we curated a new database that we were going to give to all clients in trial, and if they want to use it thereafter. And we really like, it's 4,000 items. Like, we didn't want it to be too small. We didn't want it to be RS means 30,000. So we felt the sweet spot was somewhere around there. And yeah, we'll offer it to you. And then the idea is we want to give you the tools that will allow it to evolve over time. More on that another time, but like where you can actually create your own database as a user, your own personal one. And if you like it, you can start asking to have some of those elements added, some of those line items added into the central one that one of your admins approves. So we want to keep it tight. We want to give you one to work with, and then we want to give you the tools to scale it organically to meet your needs. I got another one here. And then another. Well, I'm gonna actually do the one that just, we got more, yeah. So the ones that just came up. Can you bring your own database in? Yeah, we do that a whole bunch. We bring in customer data a whole bunch. And what that means is, well, we have the sort code of job cost, or we have the sort code of phase, or we have whatever it may be, WBS. Like, we can bring in as many of those custom sort fields or WBS codes as you have. And then we can bring in your database. We can even bring in some of your estimates. And if you don't have a database, you can either use ours, or in some cases, we'll help you get a database from some of your estimates that you bring in, right? We want this to be way faster and way smoother than any of your experiences with other of the incumbent solutions out there. So absolutely bring your own data. I also see in here our unit prices in the estimate broken out into LMSEO. L, labor. So I'm going to decode this acronym here. L means labor, M means material, S means subcontractor, E means equipment, O means other. Right? Someone can throw something in the chat if they disagree, but I'm pretty certain that's what you mean. And the answer is yes. LMSEO is the thing that pretty much everyone wants the cost to be broken down into. And we certainly offer that in our application. And we offer it where total cost equals the sum of those, total unit cost equals the sum of those. But you have the ability to just say what you know. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. You only use them if they're useful. You can also just estimate at the total unit cost, but we do break down to that level. So hopefully that answered all those questions. We've got about 3 minutes. I'm okay with ending a little bit earlier to get everyone to their next meeting. Everyone gets so back to back with their meetings these days. Unless anyone wants to sneak in another question.
Yeah, we'll give them the benefit of that. And also kind of want to remind you all that after this webinar, you might receive a survey at the end. So if you could please fill that out, that would help us that would help us a lot. So we really appreciate it. But yeah, if there are no other questions, we can give you back the benefit of 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Recording of this, I think we can just
I'll answer that one. Yes, so we will be sending a recording afterwards, so that you guys can watch it, and also for those that couldn't attend, we'll also be sending them a recording as well. So yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay.
Well, with that said, I think Mike, anything else you would like to add?
I just thank you everyone for attending. This has been a passion project for a while. I'm super excited to offer it to the industry, and I really hope it was well received, and I hope we get to talk again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you guys later.
Take care, everyone.